Great to have you watching State Focus. Well, it's tough trying to make ends meet, hang on to a job or at least find one, as well as keep life stress-free on the home front during these tough economic times. But there are people out there who can help, and an author from Berry who has put together a new book titled Recession-Proof Your Life might just have some answers for you. Lynelle Johnson, good morning and welcome to State Focus.
Good morning.
Let's just start off. The first thing that came to my mind when I saw the title of this book was Kevin Rudd needed a copy.
Well, you know, I'm just an ordinary person, but I truly believe you can recession-proof your life if you know what to do and you've got insider information.
Okay, so point us in the right direction. Where do you start?
Well, I think you've got to understand how the economy works, and I actually do go into this, not in a heavy way, but in the book, and where we are in the recession. And I think that Australia's got about another year or so to run, and by that I mean that the unemployment rate's still going to go up for the next few months. So if you're hearing people losing their jobs now, that's going to continue until next year.
All right, well, let's focus on that for the first part of our chat. Job hunting. How do you stand out from the crowd? How do you get your career back in some order when at the moment, as you say, looking at, you know, no one is really looking at taking anyone on at these
Well, actually, I dispute that. Well, first of all, it'd be good if you just kept your job, and I did go into how to bulletproof your job in the book. But if you are on the job market and you have been retrenched, the first thing to remember is that there are jobs out there. I mean, the career sections of the papers might be thinner, but there are still jobs and they still want candidates. And even during good times, about 300,000 of us are made redundant every year. So don't think of it as a catastrophic, there are no jobs. There are jobs. You just have to become the perfect candidate.
How do you do that? What's your top tip for doing that?
I think the first thing is you've got to really apply for the right job, so it has to be for your qualifications and that you have to be right for it, and you really have to read that selection criteria or that ad incredibly well, because your resume, which is what you send off in the first instance, is only a calling card. What we want is for them to pick up the phone and say, we want to interview this person. So it's not your life story so much or your employment history, but it's your calling card to get that job.
Okay, well, speaking about jobs, let's talk about something to help out the employers, and that's boosting morale. You know, we're expecting, I guess, the same sort of quality from our employees, you know, but perhaps less pay, you know, but maybe more hours.
I think it's really tough. I mean, it's easy to keep morale up. I've run a business and I know what it's like. It's hard to keep morale up when you're not getting sales wins, when you've retrenched people and they're valued members of the team who are probably friends of the colleagues have left. I think you've got to be as open as you possibly can be. Sometimes you can't be as open as you would like to be, but if you communicate really clearly what's going on, you might be surprised at how many employees have solutions to improve the product, cut costs. So don't cut your employees out of the loop. And the other thing I think is reward little wins. And that might be that you've just got a client to stay on board, or you've done a great job, and so therefore you do rewards. They don't have to be expensive, it could be movie tickets, but I think it's really important to do it publicly and in front of the person you're rewarding's colleagues. So it's all about morale. And if you're a manager, pitch in. So if you're a sales manager, take on a client, do it rather than just manage. I think that's really good for boosting morale as well if you pitch in.
All right, speaking about boosting morale and relationships, how do you keep them strong under these very stressful conditions?
It is really tough. I mean, especially if your partner's come home and they've said they've been retrenched, and that will bring up a whole lot of issues maybe for you about how we're going to pay the mortgage and what we do about the school kids. But what you've got to remember is that their reality isn't yours, and so you have to again communicate. But remember that for them it might have been a catastrophe to be retrenched, or they might have hated the job and really be happy. So don't put your own stuff onto your partner's problems. And I think the other thing you've got to do is remember that you have 50% of that relationship. And that means you've got to do what you have to do to feel safe and comfortable. So if your partner's lost their job in the recession, think of what you can do to feel safe. Maybe it's get more hours at your job, or get a job, or something that would be proactive, so you're not waiting for your partner. And the third thing is, if it gets really serious and you're not communicating and the family's not pulling together, you really should get some professional help.
Okay, 50% are like that, pitching in with some cooking and cleaning as
yes,
well.
Yes, and cooking and cleaning, anything that helps that we're in it together and we'll get through it together. But a lot of people when they are in emotional distress, they will emotionally distance, and that's very difficult to deal with.
Well, thank you for your thoughts this morning. I like the way you think, Lynelle. Appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.